Did you know that gender nonconforming and trans soldiers have fought in every single American war? In this episode, we're talking about the Civil War, and the internet says it's true. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up but is really true, part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent. Welcome back. This is episode 256. Later in the show, we'll be having comedian Kitty Long joining the show for the Yap Yap, so, stick around for that. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to talk without my notes for a minute. I'm exhausted right now. My wife's been out of town, and I have been filling the silence by hanging out with friends and doing things, and went to the Buckeye game yesterday. The Ohio State football team played Ohio University Bobcats, and I probably stayed out a little too long, and then my dogs kept me up all night. So I'm running on zero brain power. I'm sure it's going to take a really long time to edit this episode and edit out all my hiccups because, oh my God, I'm tired. My brain doesn't work yet. Real quick, I wanted to share a review of the book from our friend CJ. Got to see CJ and his wife Kim a few weeks ago. Here's what he says: the perfect bathroom book. Short, well-written, and interesting stories that are well-researched. I've listened to this podcast quite a bit, and I know I'll be buying several copies as gifts this holiday season. Very highly recommended. Thank you so much for that, CJ. You guys, when you go and you review the book on Amazon, it helps a ton. It helps the book rise in the rankings, and it lets people know that, what you think of the book. So please do that, and the link for that is in the show notes. If you have your copy of the book, please don't forget to leave that review. Also, if you're a Tiziter at the gold level, you'll get a book in the mail for free. I ran out of my first 2 cases of books, but the new shipment came yesterday, so, I'll get those out immediately when you join, and you can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That link is in the show notes as well. It would be really easy to use this week's topic to talk about current events. I've chosen not to do this. Not going to talk about anything happening in our country currently on this podcast right at this moment. I think sometimes when you don't know what to say, the best thing to do is shut up. And that's kind of where I'm at. I have lots and lots of thoughts about the state of our country, political violence, partisan debates. It's not the time in my head because I can't organize my thoughts in a way that makes sense. So I'm just going to shut up. And it is my right to do that. And you should be able to feel the same if you do not feel like you have the extra emotional fortitude to deal with anger and trauma and what the last week has been. So we're not even going to mention it. Other than one mention in the quiz section, this episode isn't about politics or debate. It's about an interesting story from history. It's a story that seldom gets told. It's all about gender in the American Civil War. Now let's start this story on a bit of a side road. When we think about people disguising themselves for military service, we might think of Shakespeare's plays. Viola dressing up as a man in Twelfth Night, for example. Or maybe we picture Mulan, the legendary Chinese figure who took her father's place in the army and concealed her gender and became a folk hero. Stories like these endure because they feel larger than life, a person defying expectations and proving themselves in battle while hiding who they really are. Now, imagine not a legend or a play, but actual people in America's bloodiest conflict, the Civil War. Estimates vary, but historians believe that hundreds of people assigned female at birth enlisted in the Union and Confederate armies while presenting as men. Some did it out of patriotism, some for economic survival, some to follow loved ones, and some because it was the way they identified in their lives. Today, we would understand many of these soldiers as transgender men. Others may not have used that label, but they lived and fought as men in a time when doing so carried immense risk. The Civil War was uniquely suited to this kind of hidden enlistment. Recruitment offices were overwhelmed, paperwork was inconsistent, and medical examinations were cursory at best. A person who dressed convincingly as a man could often walk right into a regiment and be accepted. Once on the battlefield, if they fought bravely, few of their comrades asked questions. But when we dig into the stories of individuals, the history becomes far richer and more complicated. So today, let's meet some of the best documented examples. Albert D.J. Cashier, Lyons Wakeman, Frank Thompson, Samuel Blaylock, Molly Melvin Bean, and Mary John Burns. Before we get to them, let's talk context. The Civil War killed more than 600,000 soldiers. Disease alone took 2/3 of those lives, and with so much chaos, people were slipping through the cracks all the time. Desertion was rampant. Spies posed as soldiers. Civilians sometimes grabbed rifles and joined skirmishes. Against that backdrop, the idea of soldiers secretly living under another name isn't as implausible as it sounds. Take, for instance, Albert D.J. Cashier. Born in Ireland in 1843 as Jenny Hodgers, Cashier immigrated to the United States and enlisted in the 95th Illinois Infantry in 1862. He lived the rest of his life as a man, long after the war ended. Cashier fought bravely in dozens of battles, was captured once and escaped, and later worked as a janitor and handyman. What makes Cashier's story remarkable is that he maintained his male identity consistently until old age, when dementia and medical examinations in the 1910s finally revealed the truth. Even then, many of his comrades defended him, saying his service as a soldier should stand on its own. Cashier collected a veteran's pension and is buried under his male name. Another story comes from Lyons Wakeman, born Sarah Rosetta Wakeman in upstate New York. Wakeman enlisted in the 153rd New York Volunteer Infantry in 1862, writing letters home that provide some of the clearest first-hand testimony we have from a trans soldier of that era. In those letters, Wakeman explained the decision to live as a man and fight as a soldier, saying things like, "I am as independent as a hog on ice." That is a Civil War quote if I've ever heard one. Independent as a hog on ice. Wakeman fought at the Battle of Pleasant Hill in Louisiana and later died of dysentery in 1864, buried under the name Lyons Wakeman. The letters survive today in the collections of the New York State Library, making Wakeman's story one of the best documented. And then there's Frank Thompson. Frank enlisted in the 2nd Michigan Infantry, and Thompson's story is unusual. Born Sarah Emma Edmonds, Thompson not only served as a soldier but also as a spy and a nurse. Edmonds later published a memoir, Nurse and Spy in the Union Army, detailing exploits that included disguises, intelligence gathering, and treating the wounded. After the war, Edmonds petitioned for and received a veteran's pension, one of the only women in the era to successfully do so. Whether we understand Thompson as a trans soldier or as a woman cross-dressing for the sake of service, the story still highlights how fluid identity could be in wartime. On the Confederate side, we have Samuel Blaylock. Blaylock and his wife Melinda lived in North Carolina. Both opposed secession, but when Samuel was conscripted into the Confederate Army, Melinda disguised herself as Samuel's brother and enlisted alongside him. For a time, the Blaylocks fought together, hiding her identity from the regiment. Eventually, Melinda's sex was discovered and she was discharged. But their story shows how far people could go to resist separation and how disguises were used not only for gender identity, but also for survival and for love. What I think is interesting about this one is her husband's name was Samuel, and she disguised herself as a brother, but also called herself Samuel. Didn't even pick out a new name, just used her husband's name. Pretty interesting. And now we come to Molly Melvin Bean. The story is less fleshed out, but still compelling. In 1865, Confederate authorities arrested a person named Melvin Bean near Richmond, Virginia, who had served in the 47th North Carolina. Newspaper reports described Bean as having fought for 2 years and having been wounded twice. When officials realized Bean was assigned female at birth, they suspected espionage and imprisoned Bean at Castle Thunder, a notorious Confederate prison. Beyond those press accounts, records are scarce, but the story underscores the risks of discovery. And finally, there's Mary John Burns. Not to be confused with the John Burns that we have as a regular guest on this podcast, or the John Burns that was the old farmer in the Battle of Gettysburg that picked up a rifle and started fighting. In 1863, newspapers reported that Burns enlisted in the 7th Michigan Cavalry under the name John Burns. Motivated by love, she wanted to remain with her partner. The ruse didn't last. Burns was discovered before the regiment left Detroit, was arrested, sent home. And even though her military career ended quickly, her attempt was part of a larger pattern of people who bent or broke gender norms to be a part of the fight. Together, these 6 figures show us a cross-section of experiences. Some lived as men their whole lives. Some returned to female presentation after the war. Some were celebrated, others were punished. All of them complicate our understanding of the Civil War. It wasn't just a conflict of North and South, of slavery and Union. It was also a time when individuals pushed against the rigid gender roles of the 19th century. Now at this point, let's take a short break, but when we come back, we'll look at what these stories meant in the larger context, how veterans remembered them, how modern historians interpret them, and what they say about identity, bravery, and truth in wartime. I'll be right back.
We're living through the most dynamic time in human history, and what we do as leaders matter. We are the ones that create the leverage to shift directions of our companies, our nonprofits, and our communities. As a leader or an emerging leader, please join me for a dynamic conversation with top thought leaders, academics, and executives to learn more about how to elevate your leadership. I'm Maureen Metcalf. Join us at the WCBE podcast experience at wcbe.org.
If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent.
Hey, I'm Cliff Baumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters.
From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
What if your kid could open a box and step into another century? With History Unboxed, they can. Each month, a new time-traveling adventure arrives at your doorstep, packed with hands-on projects, stories, recipes, and learning has never been more fun. No screens, no boring textbooks, just immersive, age-appropriate fun that makes history stick. Whether they're mummifying an apple like an Egyptian, or crafting medieval armor, or exploring the music of the Harlem Renaissance, they're not just learning about history, they're living it. Used by families, homeschoolers, and educators across the country, History Unboxed makes the past come alive with every box. I think it's amazing that I'm personally in my 40s and I'm still learning history every week. I wasn't interested in history as a kid, and I think that's because I didn't have something that made it fun. Things have changed since then. History Unboxed makes learning history engaging, fun, and hands-on in the comfort of your own home. So if your child loves to ask why and what was it like, this is the perfect way to fuel that curiosity. Ready to time travel? Sign up today by clicking the deals link in the show notes. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link. Let's briefly return to Albert Cashier's story, because it's striking just how much acceptance he received from his fellow veterans. In 1913, Cashier was moved to a hospital after breaking a leg. It was there that doctors discovered his birth-assigned sex. Some officials wanted to revoke his pension, but comrades from the 95th Illinois rallied to his defense. They testified that Cashier had been a brave soldier, and that should be enough. In a time where gender roles were so rigid, their defense of him is remarkable. Cashier died in 1915 and was buried in a uniform under his chosen name with full military honors. Lyons Wakeman's letters, rediscovered decades later, give us something really rare, a voice from the past that speaks directly to us. Wakeman wasn't hiding from family. The letters used the male name and described the pride of soldiering. In them, we hear a person embracing an identity that felt right, even if it meant living far from home and risking discovery. Wakeman's grave, like Cashier's, still bears the male name. Now, Frank Thompson's case is different because Edmonds later lived as a woman again, married and raised children. Some historians frame Thompson's service as a temporary disguise, others as an expression of identity. Either way, Edmonds was proud enough of the service to publish a memoir, which became a bestseller during the war. And decades later, veterans rallied to help Edmonds secure a pension, showing a measure of respect that complicates our assumptions about, 19th century gender attitudes. Now, Samuel and Melinda Blaylock left the Confederate Army altogether and joined pro-Union guerrilla forces in North Carolina. Their story illustrates the complexity of loyalties in the Civil War South, where neighbors could be bitterly divided. For Melinda, passing as a man was just a way to fight alongside her husband and resist a cause that she despised. Molly Bean's fate is harder to track. Being discovered late in the war meant harsher suspicion. Confederate officials treated Bean as a possible spy, though evidence is pretty thin for that. After the Richmond Press reports, the trail largely vanishes, and that silence itself is telling. For every well-documented case like Cashier, there were likely many whose stories were lost to time. And Mary John Burns? Her attempt failed before she saw combat, but her determination to serve alongside her partner adds to the diverse motives behind these disguises. Some soldiers just wanted independence. Some wanted love. Some wanted to live authentically. Historians estimate that between 400 and 750 people assigned female at birth served in male disguise during the Civil War. 400 to 750. And not all were trans men as we define the term today, but some clearly were. These stories remind us that trans history isn't new. It stretches back centuries. What's different now is the language and the recognition. If there's a moral here, it's that people have always found ways to live authentically, even under the harshest conditions. War may have forced their hand, but identity was at the heart of many of these choices. These soldiers risked everything for their country and for themselves. The internet says it's true. It's time for Yap Yap. This is the part of the podcast where I call a friend. Today, I'm calling Kitty Long. So, Kitty Long is like if an American Girl doll came to life. I can tell you, I did a gig with Kitty last week. Kitty Long is a stand-up comedian, but also an improviser and a writer based here in Columbus. And her work is inspired by pop culture, history, and her place in the world. How are you, Kitty?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It was a blast doing a gig with you last week at the Columbus Comedy Festival. That was a good time.
That was so much fun. I had a couple friends that came and they're still talking about it. It was really, really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I got to see a little bit of your work, and but you also write for the for Joel Savage's show. And Joel's been a guest here on the podcast once or twice. What do you do for that show? Like, what's the writing entail?
So I write a lot of his desk pieces and then also his monologue jokes. And then we try to do a couple like other bits or other, depending on what's going on at the time. So it's been a really fun experience and not something I kind of in the back of my mind always wanted to do, but never knew how to do. So it's been like such a special experience being able to do that with him.
Yeah. Monologue jokes are a strange beast. We did a ton of them I did a web show in 2020. It was like a weekly live stream show, and we did a news segment excuse me, that were like monologue style jokes, and they're fun. It's a great writing exercise, and my friend Eric Diddleman, who's also a frequent guest of the show, helped write so many of those great jokes. But yeah, And with Joel, with that particular show, he's a little bit, there's a zaniness aspect to it, so you can have a little bit more fun and
Yeah.
be a little bit more weird than a normal what a normal monologue joke would entail. So that's
The internet does not always need to say that one is true. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we can be a little crazy in that one.
Yeah. So before we get started, Kitty, did you bring with you maybe like a new fact that I don't know?
I did.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, I went to see if you had done an episode on this and you didn't, so
Okay.
I'm hoping this is brand new information. So we're familiar with Hans Christian Andersen, correct? I hope so. The fairy
Okay.
tale author.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. Sorry, it took me a minute. Yes.
He was a Charles Dickens super fan, and he got the chance to meet Charles Dickens at an event in, like, I don't know, 1840s ish. So totally starstruck, gets to meet his hero, so excited. They start exchanging letters. They start exchanging a lot of letters. And Charles Dickens gives a very loose, non-committal, trying to be polite. Yeah, if you're ever in the neighborhood, you're welcome to stay with us for a couple weeks. Hans Christian Andersen takes this to say like an invitation. He writes back. He says he's coming. He says he's not staying for more than 2 weeks. He ends up staying for 5 weeks. He is like just wreaks havoc on this household. He asks Charles Dickens' sons to like shave him every morning because he says that's a Dutch custom for a guest. They're at a dinner and Charles Dickens holds his hand out for a woman to grab his arm, and he like Hans Christian Andersen like pushes this woman out of the way so he can grab it. Just insane behavior. Charles
Whoa.
Dickens at this time is trying to leave his wife, like he's a little busy, and he just has this man in his house. And yeah, every time I think of that, I laugh.
Oh my gosh. So did they end up staying friends, or do we know?
Absolutely not. No.
Oh.
So eventually he's untangled, like he ends up leaving. I guess he writes an apology letter, like basically trying to blame it on just like a difference in like language and like maybe some other barriers. Charles Dickens, I'm not super familiar with like every Charles Dickens book, but I guess he based one of his characters on Hans Christian Andersen, and it is like not a good, like it's like very much like an uncouth, bumbling,
Oh my gosh.
like socially inept character that allegedly was based on him. So don't meet your heroes and do not let your fans stay in your home.
That is amazing. I have never heard that, and maybe worthy of an episode. That
It's
is
great. I love it.
It's really neat to hear stories that put like old people into modern view. Like that, there's a thing about that where like everyone can relate to saying,
Yes.
"Yeah, come stay with us sometime," and you never mean it. You just kind of, not that it would be a problem, but like 5 weeks.
Well, and that thing of like, if you're in the neighborhood, if you're already coming to Columbus for something else and you have accommodations for the other 5 days you're here, and then they stay with you for the full, or they're coming to see you, which you did not realize.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that transcends time and space, I think.
That's crazy. It could have been another like Misery.
It could have been.
Like, oh, I want you to write this next book, Charles.
I
okay.
didn't like that ending, Charles.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, we're off to a good start because that's definitely something that I haven't heard and super interesting. For question 1, we're going to play for a joke. So if
Okay.
you get this right, I will tell you a joke, and I've actually prepared one this week, so we don't have to go to my problematic joke books from times before. And if you get it wrong, you got to tell me a joke. Question 1.
Okay.
What do these Civil War soldiers all have in common? Albert DJ Cashier, Samuel Blaylock, Melvin Bean, Frank Thompson, Lyons Wakeman. A, they all chose to march and fight barefoot. B, they were all escaped federal prisoners. Or C, they were all assigned female at birth and fought in the war as men.
Oh, okay. This is a good one. I don't know if on my travels through, the Civil War battle sites of Central and Southern Ohio, if this one came up.
I have
Oh my
questions.
gosh.
We're going to ask questions about that.
Ooh. Um. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we have marching barefoot. We have escaped federal prisoners. We have assigned female at birth and
Yeah.
fought as men.
Yeah. Albert DJ Cashier, Samuel Blaylock, Melvin Bean, Frank Thompson, and Lyons Wakeman. And I reread the names, but rereading the names is no clue. There's nothing in the names.
You say,
that
"Oh my
tell
gosh,
you,
Lions
like-
Wakeman, of course." Yeah. How could I forget? My gut is saying C.
Okay.
They were assigned female at birth and fought as men. I don't know. I don't know why I'm getting that vibe, but I'm feeling it. That's my final answer.
The answer is C. They were all assigned female at birth, and they all fought in the war as men. Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, and the estimates are that as few as 400 and possibly up to 700 soldiers in the Civil War were either trans or basically, not gender nonconforming, or did that just in order so that they could fight, whether or not that was how they lived
Wow.
their lives or not. We don't know with a lot of these folks if they lived their lives this way or they simply just wanted to fight so badly that they did it just for that reason. So, but there are examples of both in this episode. It's pretty nuts.
Oh my
like,
goodness. Okay.
yeah, and they say like, trans people have fought and died in every war, every American conflict.
Yeah.
And I hear that and I'm like, well, certainly not the Civil War. That was like, yeah, absolutely they did. So, you got
Yeah,
it
they've
right.
always been here. You
You-
can't erase it.
No, that's absolutely right. You have been here, or you got that one wrong. So that means I owe you a joke, and I have to apologize in advance if it sounds like I'm running in slow motion right now. It's because I am. It was a late night at the Ohio State game, and then my dogs, when I came home, did not let me sleep last night. I was up all throughout the night, and so my brain is not flipped on. Here's a joke though. A sheepdog returns to his farmer and says, "All right, I've got your 70 sheep back in the east pen." And the farmer replies, "What? I have 67 sheep, not 70. The sheepdog gives him a withering look and says, "I know, I rounded them up." That's a good dad joke. As jokes go, I'm going to remember that one.
It's hard to make a sheep math joke, but you did it.
Yeah, there's the one.
Yeah.
There is that one that's like, a farmer has 26 sheep and one died. How many are left? And then it's a whole linguistic joke about 26 versus 20 sick sheep. Did you ever hear that? It's more like a
Oh,
riddle than a
I
joke.
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And I get it wrong every time. It's like it's not. You can get me on that one every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one of those, where do they bury the survivors type jokes. But only works. That one only works spoken. It's only a verbal joke. But yeah, so question 2, we're going to move on, and we're going to play for a day of making our Instagram profile picture a photo of us in Civil War garb.
Okay.
Okay, for one day. So if you get this one wrong, it'll be you and you can choose whether or not you're going to be a soldier or, like have like some sort of black flowy dress. Maybe you're a Civil War widow. I don't know. But you could that's up to you. Here's the question. Which one of these is an actual quote by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth about transgender people serving in the U.S. military? One of these he said, the other two he did not. A, transgender people should never be allowed to serve. It's that simple. B, our military is about fighting wars, not about advancing social experiments. Or C, readiness is harmed when service becomes a debate over pronouns instead of performance.
I believe all three, I fear.
All
From
three
what I
are
know.
definitely plausible. All three are definitely
I
plausible,
was gonna say.
but only one is a real quote. So A was
Okay, so we've got-
transgender people should never be allowed to serve. It's that simple. B is
Okay.
our military is about fighting wars, not about advancing social experiments. And C, readiness is harmed when service becomes a debate over pronouns instead of performance.
I feel like B and C sound too wordy for him. Which is kind of making me think A.
Interesting. The answer is A.
Really?
That is, I did not think you were going to get that one right. That was a hard one because they are all definitely the second two quotes. I just wrote something that sounded like what their arguments would be. Like that's, you know,
you used too many words with more than one syllable. I think is what got you.
That's what it is. Yeah, I should have used. You know, he's always saying this is about lethality, not tepid legality. That was his new thing about this. This was from a couple weeks ago. He said, you know, when they renamed the Department of Defense to Department of War.
Yeah.
So I should have said
that's true.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, because that's technically his title now, I think, if they are allowed to do that. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, but that would be respecting someone's new name, you know, so that's, you know, a whole other thing.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
We don't want, I'm dead naming him in this episode.
Yeah.
Wow. Secretary of Defense is a dead name. All right. So you got that right, which means one day, we'll do this week. One day there will be a picture of me in Civil War garb as my Instagram profile picture. I will not announce it. I will just do it and see if people notice.
I'll be on the look.
Yeah, absolutely. Question 3, we're going to play for what we always play for, which is a sticker. It is 3 inches, it is square, and it is sticky. These are made by Sticker Mule, a horrible, horrible company that I do not endorse. And so I am just ready to get rid of all these. I ran into my good friend Glenn Tickle the other night. He was in town doing a comedy show, and he's been on the show a lot. And I finally gave him all the stickers he's been owed from his appearances on this podcast. So Glenn's got his stickers, and I gave him an autographed book, which was cool. Okay, so for a sticker, during the Civil War, what was the most common cause of death for soldiers? Was it A, battlefield injuries, B, infection and disease, or C, starvation?
We've got battle injuries, infection and disease, and starvation.
Right. Correct.
I would say, ooh. I feel like it's always the ones you don't expect in terms of like casualties for this kind of thing. Like I feel like, okay, so we've got, I'm gonna say disease and illness.
Disease. The answer is B, infection and disease. Kitty, you're 3 for 3. So yeah, dysentery, typhoid, pneumonia killed far, far more soldiers than combat. 2/3 of all Civil War deaths were from infection and disease.
2/3. I don't know if I would have expected that high.
Now, when it comes to infection, we will say some of that infection was from battlefield injuries, right? Like, but these are battlefield injuries that would not have killed the soldier had it not been for infection. So, you know, that was the whole thing. I have a fun story. In Gettysburg, I've been to Gettysburg 3 or 4 times, and I always love, like, the ghost stories. I don't believe in ghosts, but I love the stories. And I have seen things in Gettysburg that I can't explain. But also, there's a crazy story. This is something I have not seen. There's a crazy story that, so what is now Gettysburg University, or maybe it's Gettysburg College. I think it's Gettysburg College. There's a building that at the time was used as a makeshift hospital during the battle.
Okay.
In 1863. So, excuse me. There are stories of people getting in an elevator, taking the elevator to the basement, and the elevator opens up to a Civil War hospital scene with screaming people and nurses and blood everywhere. And so then they go up and they come back down and it's just a basement. But what makes the story plausible, what makes the story intriguing to me is that this same ghost story has repeated throughout time, decades and decades apart. Like, you know what I mean? So like someone in the 1940s had this experience, but then someone in the 1980s had the same experience. You know, like there are multiple people decades apart who don't know each other who have told the same story about the same building in the same place. So something fun to look into if you're into that type of thing. Now, I said earlier that you have you alluded to the fact that you should know this type of stuff, the Civil War stuff. And our listeners who have not seen your stand-up set don't know your dad is a Civil War reenactor.
Yeah, he was big into it there for a big like 10-year stretch of when I was a kid. He played for in like a fife and drum corps, so he's a lifetime drummer. He's a really talented drummer, and he would do like we would go all over, and he would play the drums in this fife and drum corps.
Wow. You know, one of my
Yeah.
friends does that. My friend, I was in the marching band at Ohio State back in the day, and one of my band friends, Patrick, plays a bugle in one of those bands. Which
It was
so how many different battlefields would you say you'd been to?
this is so this just like proves when you're a kid you can't appreciate things, because I was like in 8th grade and thought I was cooler than everyone there, and like like was not maybe as engaged as I would be now. But
Yeah.
we did a lot of Ohio. I want to say we went into a few in Pennsylvania. I don't think we ever did Gettysburg actually,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy. But like we went to a lot around Chillicothe. I think there's a couple around like Coshocton area, like southern Ohio.
Interesting.
I want to say we would go to like 4 or 5 a summer there for like several summers.
That
I wish I
is
had like a better answer of like a specific
No, but-
specific place or a
it's just something. Have you ever read the book Confederates in the Attic?
no.
You would enjoy this book. So this was written, I believe, in the 90s, and a New York author decides to sort of embed himself in the South, in the the Lost Cause South, and but tags along with a bunch of Confederate Civil War reenactors, and kind of looks at the Civil War through these Southern eyes. And the whole book is about his experiences talking to Southerners about the Civil War as a Northern person. It is very entertaining, and a large part of the book it deals with the reenactors and what that was like, and how serious they take it. So there's also a really great Conan episode on his travel show where he is a Civil War reenactor and he embeds himself, and he's hilarious. So good.
Well, it's a cutthroat world, and if you can't hack it, you're
That's
getting the bayonet.
It's what
Yeah.
it's what it seems like. They have names for everything. Like if your clothes aren't period authentic, they have like a name for that. I can't remember what they call it, like a farb or something like that. I don't know. Like, this guy's not a real Civil War reenactor because he's wearing tennis shoes, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
They're very serious about it.
The historically accurate boots, that was a very important part of the search, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember actually, and this is like such a, 5th to 8th grade girl's perspective, like when I was going, obviously it was, fun to see him, but like there was always like a town or like a little village or like some sort of other stuff going on that I was
Yeah.
always so intrigued by. And yeah, you would see people cooking, there would be like the toys, there would be all kinds of stuff that was like giving a whole snapshot. It was crazy seeing like how accurate, well, I mean, not that I like know that's like at
Yeah,
first hand how
but
accurate,
the effort
but like
involved.
correct. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
even at that age that was exciting.
Yeah. I really enjoy when I've been to Gettysburg, the shops with all the memorabilia. I
Mhm.
really think that that's cool. I mean, it's just there's not, I mean, that tourism supports that city so much, and
Yeah.
just shop after shop, it's just so cool. And now I haven't been in a while. I'm sure that a lot of those shops now are like just selling political party hats, and you know what I mean, like that type of thing.
I wonder
I'm
if
sure
that has shifted.
it seems that way, but I like it would, but I haven't been in a while. So, well, you're doing very well. You're 3 for 3. Question 4. We're playing for a copy of my new book. The book is called The Internet Says It's True: Stories That Sound Made Up But Aren't. And if you get this right, you'll get your own copy. Here's your question. Who was the first black woman documented to enlist as a man in the U.S. Army, later known as a Buffalo Soldier? A. Cathay Williams, B. Sarah Emma Edmonds, or C. Harriet Tubman? So this is a black woman documented to enlist as a man, a Buffalo Soldier.
What was I'm asking for the first name, like it's gonna help. What was the first name?
Cathay Williams. Sarah
Cathay William.
Sarah Emma Edmonds and Harriet Tubman.
So I know Harriet Tubman did disguise herself as a man. I'm not sure if it was for, like, if it was to fight or if it was like, you know, for other, like when she was, on the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah Emma Edmonds, that's ringing a bell, but I could not tell you why. But I wonder if this is why it's ringing a bell. I kind of want to say, okay, I'm going to go with B. I'm going to say Sarah Emma Edmonds.
The answer is A, Cathay Williams. So,
Oh,
Cathay Williams, Cathay, enlisted under the name William Cathay and served as a Buffalo soldier. And this
Convenient.
makes her literally the only documented Black woman to do so.
Is a Buffalo soldier? This might be a silly question that maybe I should know the answer to, but is a Buffalo soldier, is that, I guess, what's the definition of a Buffalo soldier?
It was a loose, like almost a nickname for the exclusive Black American soldiers units, regiments. So
Okay, that's what I thought.
and so basically they were formed during the 19th century to serve on sort of the frontier, like as our westward expansion type of thing. But that was the, and I'm not sure where the name came from. We see. Oh, here we go. Sources disagree on the nickname Buffalo Soldiers. Some say it originated with the Cheyenne warriors because the actual Cheyenne translation was Wild Buffalo. It's what the Cheyenne called the Buffalo Soldiers. Let's see. Another possible origin credits the Plains Indians, who gave them the name because of the bison coats they wore in winter. So it's a generic. It ended up being a generic term for all Black soldiers, I think, but it did. At one point it was specific regiments that they called them that. So.
Okay, I feel like I had heard that in the ether, but okay, this is like bringing me back to AP US history, so this is good.
Yeah, and it's better than their official name, because regiments that were made of like all Black soldiers during the Civil War were officially called United States Colored Troops, and so I'm glad that we have something that's has a little bit more, like a little bit better to call those groups.
Yeah, something else. Yeah.
History, history's a funny bird. It'll change the way that we see things, and that's one of those. So you are 3 for 4, doing very well. But this next question is for all the marbles. If you get this one right, it's like you won all 5. If you get it wrong, never on the podcast again. Here's your question. If you, Kitty Long, could instantly master a skill that would completely change how people see you, what would it be?
Oh, this is a good oh my gosh, this is like getting a little meta and existential. Yeah. Wow. If you could change one skill that would affect how people see you.
Yeah, it's kind of a 2-part question, because it's not just about like, oh, if you could master a skill. It's a specific thing, like, because you're changing other people's impression of you with this skill.
I think so. Something that is very important to me in my friendships, in my relationships, and kind of even through comedy in a way, is making people feel very seen and heard and like recognized and known. Like that's something that I really strive for. And I almost, that's a personal thing, but it is something that like I want people to feel that, I want that to be outward as well. So I'm trying to think what skill would change how people would see me, but I think, I don't know, I always really admire people who are so thoughtful to a point where like, you know how you have that friend that you told something to them one time and they remember it to them for the rest of their lives, and they always remember, oh, Michael loves chocolate covered raisins, or whatever the thing is. I don't know. I think if I could develop the skill of being like a very thoughtful listener, that could then make people feel that way and like kind of have that be their perception of me or my legacy. I think that would be like my favorite.
That's a great answer. I love it. And I think totally attainable for anyone. I think that listening, like active listening, is a thing that I don't think that there are people who are good listeners and bad listeners. I think we all have the skill of good listening or bad listening throughout our lives. It always changes based on the situation. But I think, and I say this as someone who, my ADHD can be pretty severe and keeps me from being a good active listener. But what I've noticed is that if I'm really on top of my meditation regimen, and I'm doing like 10 minutes a morning and practicing mindfulness pretty regularly, my active listening skills get so much better because I'm able to stop the tape from playing forward in my head while someone else is talking. And you know what I mean? I'm able to like engage and sit in the moment a lot better than I think practicing mindfulness is a really great mind hack to be able to like decide when to stop your mind from running without you, those thoughts where you're like, oh, I've been listening to an audiobook for 20 minutes and I haven't really been listening. Like that whole thing, So that's a great answer. I think that's a really achievable goal as well. Mine would be the ability to freestyle rap, but yours was better. So,
well, that takes mindfulness, right? I mean, you got to be able
I assume so. I don't have that level of connection between my brain and my mouth, but I would love to be able to freestyle rap. Just any musical improv would be really great for me to be able to do. I would love to be able to do that, and I really admire people who can. Improv in general, difficult for me. I've studied it, I've done it, but doing like freestyle rap, I watch people who do it, and I'm like, that's a trick. They rehearsed this.
It's wild to me. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it changes how I see those people, maybe because, like I can't do it, and I'm like, how does their brain work so differently than mine? How does that happen? So, or even just another thing that I would love to be able to master is just being able to sing at the level that I could be a front guy of a band. I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
because I can sing.
That was on my mind.
I can, yeah. So I can sing, but I'm not at that level that I could front a band. But that would be like an alternate career for me. I would love to be able to do that. So, well, you did
singing
wonderfully.
Magician.
The singing magician. There are a few of those actually. It doesn't work, in my opinion.
Not as magical as you thought it would be.
It's never. It's always okay. Is this person a singer? Are they a magician? Are they supposed to be like it's an image thing, and I've never seen it. I've never seen anyone do both at the same time and be like a really intriguing person on stage. And I'm sure if people I know who do it are listening, that's offensive. Suck it up, Buttercup. That's how I feel. All right. Well, Kitty Long, thank you so much for being my guest. Go see Kitty Long if you're in the Central Ohio area. Kitty does stand up. Tell people where they can find out about where to see you.
You can follow me along on Instagram at Kitty_Long. I'm popping all over Columbus at venues all over Columbus and hoping to kind of expand. So yeah, I'd love to see you.
Fantastic. And you can see my Instagram if you want to see me dress up like a Civil War soldier one day this week. That's going to be fun. I appreciate you coming on, Kitty. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you again for having me. This was so much fun.
That's all for this week. Thank you so much to my friend Kitty Long for being my guest, and thanks to you for listening. Here's a kid who only knows the Civil War as a Captain America movie.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it! See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.